Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And in today's video, I am going to be talking about Madam Web, the fourth installment in Sony's Spider-Man universe. So, Sony's Spider-Man universe began back in 2018 with the release of Venom. Two more movies ended up coming out after Venom, which were Venom Let There Be Carnage in 2021 and Morbius, which came out in 2022. And then now in 2024, we have the release of Madam Web. Ever since Venom came out back in 2018, the Sony Spider-Man universe movies have been massively dropping off at the box office because Sony just got it in their heads that people were just gonna go to the movie theater and just see anything with something Marvel attached to it, right? Because as you guys have noticed with these like Sony Spider-Man universe movies, when you have like the opening credits, you know how like they show the companies that, you know, made the movie. You know how like the Sony's Spider-Man universe movies, one of the logos is like in association with Marvel? Because at a certain period point in time, yeah, if you put a Marvel logo attached to it, it would just make a lot of money at the box office. But now people have caught on to what Sony has been doing with these movies, and they are massively supporting these movies less. It's come to a point where Madam Web officially has one of the worst opening box office weekends worldwide for a Sony Spider-Man related movie, right? So early on, this movie was already tracking to open worse at the worldwide box office than Morbius. Then you had a bunch of like shill media trying to kind of cover up this movie and trying to make it less of an actual flop than it would have been. So I want you guys to understand what I'm going to bring up here, and it's very crucial. So Morbius had a budget of around $70-ish million, right? And Morbius only took in like 167 million somewhat at the box office, right? I think it was like 167.9, somewhere around that, right? So that movie just straight up flopped, right? It just outright flopped based off its budget, based off the marketing attached to it, and based off the number it got at the box office. And then some of these like show media websites tried to basically tell you guys that this movie taking in $200 million with a very similar budget to Morbius, this movie's budget is around 80 million, not including marketing, would make it a success. It's like, no, if Morbius had a very similar budget to this movie and flopped at $167 million, this also would flop by those standards, because even if you have a movie on a $70 to $80 million budget, not including marketing, you'd have to kind of factor in what layer of profit you would need to make from its marketing. These films still would have to take in roughly like about $450 million to actually ink in any profit. This movie taking in $200 million pretty much just kind of makes it barely break even. And you guys have to understand, these studios don't want that. They don't want to break even. Breaking even essentially just means you lost. You didn't really gain anything, and you probably lost more in the long term because, you know, the marketing budget you attach to your film also is not going to get recuperated either. Then what also hurt Madam Web was the sheer terrible marketing surrounding this movie. Have you guys seen the marketing from this movie? Dakota Johnson is the most flat out plank of wood style of acting that I have ever seen. She seemed so disinterested in this movie. And there's another article that I'm going to go over from The Hollywood Reporter talking about the inside of Madam Web and why it really ultimately failed. But this is just to cover like the box office record of it. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have, you know, results from the second weekend for this movie, because Morbius ended up just straight out having one of the biggest second weekend opening drops for a superhero related movie ever. Then the Marvels came out, and the Marvels actually has the worst second weekend drop for a superhero film. And with Madam Web now upon us, I think this movie will end up having the biggest second weekend opening drop for a superhero film ever, honestly. And it's crazy that people like went to this movie and they were like, I was just so surprised it was bad. It's usually a common sentiment for this movie. And I gotta tell people, it's like, these are all bad. These are not good movies. Venom's not good. Let There Be Carnage sucks. And Morbius sucks. I would know. I've watched all of them. I actually watched Let There Be Carnage in theaters. I watched Morbius in theaters. I watched Venom on VOD, actually. These are just straight up bad movies. These movies make no sense. The plots are nonsensically bad. These make like other really bad superhero movies look like masterpieces, actually. I just don't understand, why are they putting out Spider-Man related villain hero movies without Spider-Man? And we know the reason why. It's because they want to keep the rights to Spider-Man. But this is just making things so much worse. And this movie directly contributes to superhero movie fatigue. It just does. Like, when people are talking about superhero movie fatigue, they're talking about this movie. Movies like this. Nobody wants movies like this, and the box office results show it. Madam Web officially breaks a 22-year Sony Spider-Man box office record. Well, I'm not surprised about that. Madam Web broke a 22-year-old Sony Spider-Man box office record with 25.8 million in its 6-day opening. Remember, like I mentioned earlier in this video, I'm pretty sure I did, this movie actually opened on Valentine's Day. This movie specifically had a head start over a lot of other movies, actually. Came out on Wednesday, then you had the Thursday night previews, then you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you also have Monday, and I'm pretty sure it was a holiday on Monday. I'm pretty sure it was President's Day, actually. So this movie had the perfect release date for it, perfect theatrical window, and it abysmally failed at the box office. Despite being part of Sony's Spider-Man universe, Madam Web had the worst box office opening in its history. Yeah, these accolades we've been getting for superhero movies have been trending in the downward spiral for quite some time. Madam Web's opening gross even fell below the critically panned Morbius's 39 million opening. So yeah, Morbius actually opening weekend earned like 5 million less than the Marvels, and I think it earned like 5 million less, or somewhere around the ballpark of like Aquaman 2. Like, people gotta understand, a few years back, 39 million was nothing for a superhero movie, right? We were in the range of like, what, almost 90 to 100 million dollars opening weekend, give or take which movie. Like, it's really bad. Or it just might be these Sony Spider-Man movies because they're just abysmally bad and no one wants to see this shit. Also, Madam Web hopefully won't go through what Morbius went through, because Morbius went through it getting released twice and it flopped twice. That's just the only movie that'll probably ever have that. And you guys gotta look at I know people shouldn't really value trailer views and comments that much because it's just like all what the internet's based around. Whenever these movies get a new trailer released, the collective people that would probably hate each other despise these movies so much that instead of ranting about them, they just make fun of them. Like, no one takes these movies seriously anymore. These movies, just stop making them. I don't know why they choose to make them. The next movies in this universe is like, what, Kraven the Hunter and like Venom 3? And it's like, why am I interested in any of those, to be honest here? Madam Web breaks a 22-year-old Sony Spider-Man box office record during its 6-day opening. Since the release of 2002 Spider-Man starring Tobey Maguire, the Sony Spider-Man universe has enjoyed a number of lucrative openings, including a 260.1 million domestic opening gross for Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021. Despite being part of the SSU, Madam Web did not generate the same level of anticipation and excitement that usually exists for movies related to the popular superhero. Okay, so like, a lot of show media have been doing this too. Okay, so I find it so stupid that they're comparing like MCU stuff to like theirs. No. What they need to just do only is just put in the results for just the Sony's Spider-Man universe movies. That's it. Like, yeah, Sony's highest ever is No Way Home, right? Cool, but that doesn't mean anything because they're in a completely different universe, okay? According to Variety, Madam Web has grossed $25.8 million domestically across its 6-day opening and $17.6 million during the typical 3-day opening weekend. Madam Web's box office is now officially has the worst opening in the history of the SSU, even below the critically panned Morbius's 3-day opening gross of 39 million. For a full comparison of SSU movies, check out the table below. Just only SSU movies, not anything else. All right, so we're not going to look at all this other fudging numbers that they're doing here. Look at this right here. And I pointed this out in my last video. I know a lot of you guys liked it. So let's kind of reaffirm what I was talking about in last video when I was referencing Madam Web, okay? So look right here. Venom had a domestic opening of 80.2 million, went on to hit like what, 850, 890 million worldwide at the box office. So that's some huge profit numbers there, right? Let There Be Carnage actually had a higher opening weekend, but ended up peaking out, I think, at like 514 million at the worldwide box office. Still, I guess you could imagine somewhat profitable, maybe giving its marketing, give or take. It's like maybe a break even for really being generous there. Then you look at Morbius, a 39 million opening weekend, and it took in like, what, 167? So abysmally flopped, right? Now you have Madam Web, and it just hit that. That's terrible. That's bad. That's awful. That's pathetic, actually. Well, and you ask the question, why Madam Web bombed at the box office? Oh, we know why Madam Web bombed. No one cared to see this, actually. Even before Madam Web was released in theaters, the new Sony film seemed poised to perform poorly, largely due to questionable marketing campaign. Yeah, the marketing campaign was garbage. Madam Web's first trailer became known for the cringeworthy line, "He was in the Amazon with my mom when he was researching spiders before she died." Yeah, good lord. Dakota Johnson, plank of wood trash level acting, which was quickly mocked and led to countless memes and jokes for a movie that hadn't even been released yet. This line is not spoken even in the actual movie, but the damage was already done in the lead up to it. To make matters worse, Madam Web's star Dakota Johnson seemed generally disinterested and dissatisfied with the film during the press tour, with Johnson revealing drastic changes from Madam Web's original story pitched to her only days before the movie hit theaters. Despite these red flags, one of the few elements in the marketing that built excitement were the glimpses of the various Spider Women in their distinct costumes. Those looking forward to this aspect of the movie were left disappointed, as these characters only wear their costumes in visions of the future, making the marketing feel misleading. Oh, that is a definite mislead. The superheroes only appear in costume in visions in the future. Holy shit, this is a new low. Oh my god. Oh god, Sony, you're so trash. Fucking hell. How can this company sit there and make the Into the Spider-Verse movies, Amazing Spider-Man 1, the first two Tobey Maguire movies, which I really, really liked, and then now we're at this point where they do this, and they have their collaboration with the MCU with Tom Holland, but that's been put on hold due to the back and forth of Sony and like Disney and Marvel not really collaborating on what the idea for Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland should be. So they're just putting out these disgusting trash, borderline useless movies like this that nobody wants. And it's like, they legit wasted more money making this than they're actually going to make from it at the box office and on DVD sales. And, you know, physical media is a hard thing to accumulate now, but Sony's the one doing it for people. So it doesn't even matter if that's a point, because no one's who's gonna buy this on 4K? If you buy this on 4K, you just flat out waste your money. Burn that shit. Throw that shit in a fucking dumpster. Some films can bounce back from a poor opening box office with good reviews and good word of mouth. That's the key thing there. Some films can do that, but the word of mouth on Madam Web has been awful. Madam Web isn't bouncing back, and there's no way it can bounce back and actually be profitable at the box office with that opening weekend. The opening weekend for certain movies dictates the pace of what it can actually achieve to getting to even a break-even point. Is almost not likely with a movie like this because it started out opening so low. Like I said before, we are going to get the second weekend box office results for this movie, and if it's not hitting like about 70 to 80 million worldwide in the second weekend and it flops again, they're going to just take it out of theaters and start reporting on the numbers, and they're just going to put it on a streaming service, actually. But that is unlikely to happen for Madam Web, which currently holds a 13% critical score and 54 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which previously had the SSU's lowest opening gross, went on to earn $384.3 million worldwide due to its stellar critical and audience reception. The problem here, okay, I get what they're bringing up here, but you can't really compare this to, you can't, this movie is in an entirely different universe, okay? But I get the point. Word of mouth can turn around a film's box office, but it's still a bad comparison in my own personal opinion. Unfortunately, Madame Web is not on track for a similar trajectory, and its poor performance means a Madame Web 2 with the Spider-Woman in costume will probably not happen now. Yeah, there's gonna be no Madame Web 2. Have you guys heard of the Morbius 2? No. Have you guys heard of Madame Web 2? You won't. Because if this movie had did well opening weekend and then, you saw the money just raking in, well, yeah, they'd probably announce a sequel, given how the box office is still pretty high, but still you factor in like marketing and where it needs to actually hit. Don't let the media lie to you guys. This movie needs way more than $200 million to be profitable, and it's probably not going to reach that. It's probably going to end up being a massive box office flops when we get the results for this movie for its second weekend at the worldwide box office. But let this be a lesson to Sony and any of the other companies putting out bad superhero movies like this one. I have not seen this yet, but I've seen the trailers, and the trailers are pretty bad, actually. And I've seen the other three, so I have no hope for this one. I mean, they've already kind of fooled me 3 times. The fact that I think the 4th one would be good is astonishingly not in my mind at all. But yeah, I'm not even surprised at this, actually. Like, this movie its opening is 25 million. It's bad. But what do you guys think about Madame Web? Are you watching this in your movie theater, or are you going to wait to watch this on VOD? See you guys later. Like, comment, and subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. I am MSK, Master Swag King, and I'm signing out, guys.